You have 6 to 8 weeks to live. Those were the fatal words Maureen Bell's doctor pronounced to her in 2006. Luckily, you can all relax. She overcame that pronouncement and is thriving today. A lot of you would probably prefer not to hear such words being given to you. But if you did, how many of you would love to figure out how to turn it around like Maureen Bell did? Okay, good. Because I will share with you 3 of the main lessons that she learned through her experience and that she shared in my book, Healing Happens: Stories of Healing Against All Odds. Maureen Bell was into natural healing, green design. She loved plants and animals. How many of you love plants and animals? She also was a type A personality. So she pushed herself to the point where she was in a wheelchair. She kept pushing herself and ended up passing out. Her friend took her to the hospital, and that was when she was given the diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and given 6 to 8 weeks to live. The doctor said that they could do some chemo to help prolong her life, but there was nothing else that they could do for her. 2 months later, as the doctors predicted, she was in hospice care, bedridden, 85 pounds, morphine patches, oxygen tubes, unable to get up or eat. She was holding out until her son came to visit so she could say goodbye because she was expected to pass away soon. Her son remembered the strong single mom who raised him, who knew about natural healing. So he asked her, "Why didn't you fight? Why didn't you fight?" She wondered, oh my gosh, do I have a choice in this? Choice. This is kind of an interesting thought there, thinking about the reality that we know. Anybody heard of Neem Karoli Baba? He's a yoga guru from India. So he's very well known for having a great presence and a great ability. One of his abilities, which he did once, somebody brought him a drug called LSD, and he took it just to prove a point. I don't recommend trying this at home. But he took more than the average amount of person would take that would end up killing the average person, but it did nothing for him. He had a different mindset. So, choice. How much choice do we have there? There was a child who was deemed to have autism. He was brought to a special center so that they could work with him and observe him and see if they could help him. His parents watched through one of those privacy glass rooms, so the child did not know the parents were around. All of a sudden, this child was like a normal child, and the parents were like, "That's not my child." Choice. What's the reality that we know? One of my teachers told me a story of a hypnotist who hypnotized somebody, and then he secretly held a watch behind the back of somebody else in that person's view. Asked the person who was hypnotized what he was holding. And the person said, "A watch." They didn't physically see him hold a watch or pull it out. Somehow, through hypnotism, they couldn't even see the person in front of them, or they just intuitively knew there was a watch there. Choice. What is the reality that we know? When I got trained in energy healing, my teacher told me, because she believed that I had the ability, that I could see auras. all of a sudden, because of that belief, I could see auras. This is a little out there too, but one day I was under a blue light, but normally you need an x-ray to see the bones under your skin. This was just a regular blue light, and I could see my bone as if there was no skin there. What we know of in this world and what we've defined can be so different from what we've imagined before if we keep opening ourselves. In that moment, her son asked, "Why didn't you fight?" Maureen thought, "Do I have a choice?" And this is what she describes happened. After my son left, I thought, okay, I can leave now. I closed my eyes, and the next thing I knew, I was engulfed in light. There was an all-encompassing presence of love. I was the presence, and the presence was me. The pain was gone. I was in complete peace, in balance, in harmony, and I felt a connection with everything in the universe. Then a voice said, "Choice." A presence came forward, and I replied, "Yeah, choice." I realized the presence was saying that if I wanted to go back, I could go back. I was as shocked as I could be in a blissful state. I looked down and I was way above my body, which looked like a bump on the bed. Again, I said, "Choice." And the presence replied, "You have a choice. You always have choices in every moment of the day." Would you all do this with me? Choice. This is like a 1,000-petal lotus flower opening up. So just say choice with me and open up that flower. Choice. Beautiful. Again, choice. Choice. How many choices do we have? There are so many opportunities out there for ourselves. Maureen woke up from that experience. Her body was still weak, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel pain in her body, and she was hungry. She realized that cancer is a virus, and she could simply ask it to leave, and that would help send it on its way. The next piece of intuition she got was to research the chemo drugs that she was being given. She had one more treatment scheduled. After that, what you could call a near-death experience, she thought, maybe I don't need this, but something intuitively is saying, go through with this last treatment, but find out what's really being put in my body. The first drug she looked up is called vincastrine. It comes from the vinca plant. Where are those plant lovers? It's periwinkle. It's a beautiful plant, and she planted that plant everywhere she lived in her adult life. She loved that plant. She went in to that last round of chemotherapy with an appreciation for the drug. Normally, it would take 10 hours for all of the drugs to get into her body. This time, it only took 3. There were a number of side effects that normally happen from chemo that were not happening. Her hair was growing back in. She was gaining weight. The nurses were wondering if she was being given a placebo. The doctor said there's no way that we would be giving her a placebo. This miracle was really happening for her because she had a different relationship with the drug. And that allowed her to have a different belief. There's a really sweet story also in my book from Dr. Bernie Siegel. He mentions attitudes and beliefs can truly affect outcomes. One doctor using a chemotherapy agent that began with the letters EPO and ended with H, called the EPO protocol, realized that by turning the letters around, it spelled hope. So he started calling his treatment the Hope Protocol. As a result, 3 or 4 times as many patients responded positively to the treatment. Shift in perspective. Maybe some of you have heard of Biology of Belief from Bruce Lipton. There was another practitioner who used to tell her clients that 9% of people heal from chemotherapy. But then she realized that there's a much higher percentage of people who heal, who believe that that is what is going to help them. So she stopped telling people about the 9%. So the relationship here and the belief both come hand in hand. Well, we can start to think about what are some of the other areas in our lives happening on a daily basis that we could apply this to. What if we looked at chemtrails in the sky differently? And it's not the chemtrails that are toxic, but it's the way we perceive it. The judgment, the feeling, and the response to the chemtrails are in our own body. What if we were just fascinated by this amazing line in the sky and the ability to be doing something like that? At minimum, we would at least feel better while we're thinking about that. Our relationships. People talk about toxic relationships and we need to get away from them. But maybe the thing that we need to get away from is our own self and our response to the relationship and our judgment of them. Shifting of beliefs. Paramahansa Yogananda said circumstances are neutral. Do that with me. Circumstances are neutral. Circumstances are neutral. Yeah. Trish said that I might be dancing. You didn't know that you all would be dancing too. So we've got choice, do this with me, choice, and circumstances are neutral. I feel like this quote is a little bit like an onion where you can keep peeling away layer after layer after layer and see so many definitions that we can let go of. Ways that we can live our life from a different perspective. I don't know if you ever noticed, I think of an example. This happened to me just recently, and I was in a situation and I was complaining a little bit about it. Even just in my own head, I didn't quite like it. And then I ran into somebody else who was part of that situation, and they said, "Oh, how great it was and what fun, and we got all these things." Which thought do you think I'm going to choose in the future in reaction to that? Which one is going to make me feel better? Our perspective and our relationship, because the circumstances are neutral. So anything could happen in there. The interesting thing is with my healing programs, I used to just go right into offering people a lot of natural techniques that they could do on their own. What I realized is that it's very helpful to establish our mindset first and how we're going to go about everything, and then we can achieve greater results. That's what we'll do in the workshop today as well after service. So we had number 1 was choice. Number 2, circumstances are neutral. The thing that was happening with Maureen right before she had this near-death experience was having dreams that looked like her body was split in two and going down 2 different paths. Then she went into this near-death experience, and I'll explain a little bit more of what she said. Then the presence again said choice. Now I was at about ceiling height, looking down at this gray, bald, skeletal body and thinking, "Oh my God, go back to that and the pain?" Then the presence said, Well, ask your body. I looked down and realized that my body was still alive in its essence. My soul had separated from it, but it had a life of its own. At that point, I realized our bodies, even in their decomposition, are alive. They're just going back to the earth where they came from to join as soulmate with the soul. So I asked my body, well, what do you think? My body replied, yeah, let's go for it. So I turned back to the light in utter gratitude and bliss, closed my eyes, and thought, I'm either going to move further into the light or back into my body. Interesting. Ask your body. So do this one with me. Ask my body. Ask my body. Yeah, try not to hit your neighbor. Ask my body. That's one of the next stages for choosing our healing path, choosing our diet, but going even further with all the choices that we make in life. Simply asking your own self and tuning in. Maureen Bell didn't have a vegan diet or any of these other fad diets to help her recover from that point. She asked her body, listened to what it told her, and ate that whenever she got the appetite for it. She actually would watch cooking shows so that she could get the inspiration to eat because it was so long since she ate normal food. And as soon as she salivated on something, her sister would go quickly and cook that for her. Just paying attention to that body. But the other interesting thing is that next night, she had a dream that she was one body walking down one single path. The body and the soul came back together for her. But there was that moment where they were splitting apart. It's interesting that she calls them soulmates. A lot of us are here constantly searching for our soulmate. Maureen says that the soulmate is right inside of our own selves. Our body with its own soul and our soul coming together so that you end up being a complete package. You don't need anything else. Just ask your body what you need and feel that sense of fulfillment. I took that to heart. Last fall, I went to Bali, Indonesia. How many of you like to travel? Yeah, maybe some of you have even been to Bali or some of these countries way out there in the east. I met this gentleman who suggested I climb up Mount Rinjani. It's one of the largest peaks on the Indonesian islands. It's in Lombok, which is the island next to Bali. Now, I used to take people hiking up Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in continental U.S. It's a little easier than the Colorado mountains, though, because you don't have to do any rock climbing or deal with snow at the top. If you go at the right time, it's in California. So you just go on these nice switchbacks, but it's a very long hike. And I knew it takes a lot of training to go on this hike. And I knew I was not physically trained to go on this hike, but I also knew it must be beautiful. So I kept going back and forth. Should I do it? Should I not? I was staying on this tiny island in between Bali and Lombok, so small that you could run around the perimeter with my slow running pace on sand in an hour. So early one morning before the sun was rising and it was getting hot, I started my way around the island. I got to the other side. The sun was rising right over the mountain range that Mount Rinjani was on. And it was the most picture-perfect thing I had ever seen. So I thought, I'm going to be up there for breakfast in a couple of days. I'm going to do it. But I had to ask my body. And I found a tour guide and I asked them, okay, are you going to be able to cater to my food allergies? And I didn't plan for hiking, and so I don't have a pole, I don't have a headlamp, I don't have camping gear, I don't have warm clothes for when it gets cold at the higher elevation, and they're assuring me that everything's going to be taken care of. The first part of this journey was finding out that they pretty much didn't give me any equipment. So I pulled together the most interesting outfit I could find, like pants on top of pants and my designer sweater up at the top of the mountain, the only warm thing I had. And I did buy a hat from the store. They did give me a headlamp. And we piled into the back of a truck, about 12 of us in this back of a small truck bed, to go for an hour ride bouncing around. That helped us all get to know each other before the hike. So here we are trying to get out of the truck. Our bodies are all feeling a little weird already to start. It's late in the morning, so the sun is blazing. It's very hot. And we fill ourselves up with food and water and whatnot. And then we start walking up the trail. We weren't really sure who our guide was, but every now and then an Indonesian guy would point in a direction when the trail split, and we just trusted that was the direction that we needed to go. I remember I talked about with Mount Whitney these nice switchbacks. Well, in Indonesia, they didn't necessarily care to make it such a nice trail. So you went straight up, no matter what was in your way. Little boulders to climb over, whatever it might be. You're getting to higher elevation, you're in the heat, and you're hiking all day when you're not trained. So there I am walking, and I'm going, is my leg going to just collapse on me with each step? Luckily, my legs stayed put together. But there I am in this pain, knowing that I'm not physically prepared to go to the top of this mountain. So I checked in on that first day. Do you want to do this? My body goes, yes, do it. We get up to the first campsite. Our guides were so late that dinner was coming so late that I ended up skipping it because we had to wake up at 2 a.m. the next morning. That's okay because they didn't have food that I could eat anyways. The whole catering to my allergies wasn't happening. Woke up at 2 a.m., put all the warm clothes on, put the headlamp on. They didn't actually give me a hiking pole, but luckily I borrowed one from somebody who didn't want to go to the top. And there I am starting to walk up in the dark, and the headlamp is fading and fading and fading. I wasn't moving at the same tempo as anybody else in my group, so I'm in the pitch black, walking by myself, and again, I ask my body, do you want to do this? And it gets even more excited than the day before, and it says, yes, let's make it to the top. Interesting. My body didn't care about the pain or the challenge. It was in it for the joy, the excitement, for what could happen in the process. In a certain way, like nothing needed to stop my body. It was going to do what it could. So this is fun to ask the body, not just the mind. Bring them all together and marry it. What I would love to do is take you into a meditation right now so that you can tune into that. And then I'll conclude the talk. Is that good? Okay. So sit up nice and tall. And if you can plant your feet flat on the floor, go ahead and do that. Relax your shoulders. Close your eyes. And breathe deeply in and out of your nose. You can listen to the sound of your breath. You can feel the sensation of the cool air coming into your body and the warm air leaving your body as it hits the nostrils. You can feel your belly expand and relax back in with each breath. Your lungs expanding and relaxing back in. Feel that warmth in your heart as you breathe right into your heart center. Keep focusing on the breath going to your heart. As you focus on the heart, you can ask your body's voice to come forward. You may have a feeling or a body sensation. You may have words or pictures that come to you. The messages come to all of us in a different way. Just be present. Be a listener, knowing that you've made a deep connection with your body. Stay with the breath in the heart. Going deeper and deeper. One last deep breath. And open your eyes. Anybody want to know what happened on the hike? It was painful, but luckily massages are really cheap in Indonesia. But there I was, hiking up that last bit in the dark. It's a little bit like quicksand, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I was very glad to have that one hiking pole. And somehow I was getting so charged that I was going faster and faster. I wanted to make it to the top so that I could see the sunrise and look back to where I was jogging just a couple days before. And I did. I made it to the top. I can feel the emotions of it, right now, because it was so challenging for me. But I did it 1 step after the other, after the other. They say slow and steady wins the race. I took the time I needed, and I was not the slowest person in my group. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But it's amazing how much choice we have depending on our thoughts, awareness, and attitudes. With me one more time, let's do those 3 points. We have choice, circumstances are neutral, and ask your body. Beautiful. Yeah. And Obama may not be the first person to say this, but he did say, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. You can be that change. Fatal pronouncements do not have to be your fate. And if you come to the workshop this afternoon, you'll get more stories like Maureen's. You'll hear a little bit more on my story. The reason why I do this is because I healed from an autoimmune disorder beyond what the doctors were telling me was possible. But I will go into that mindset with you with the four key success strategies from the book. And then you'll get natural healing techniques that you can do on your own in a minute or two for immediate results. I thank you all very, very much, and I thank the Unity Church for hosting me as well. And thank you for being so open to dancing with me. Hope to see you later.